Good evening. You're safe now. The night may be long, but your journey will be gentle. You're about to drift far away, beyond the tide, beyond the wind, to a quiet, forgotten edge of history. Tonight, we journey to the rugged coastlines of 19th-century Scotland. A land shaped by wind and sea, by lonely cliffs and deeper silences. This was a time when the light of a single flame could mean survival for an entire ship's crew. A time when a handful of men lived not on the land, and not quite at sea, but somewhere between. They were the lighthouse keepers. Tonight, we'll explore the stillness and routine of their lives. We'll walk through an unsolved mystery that still whispers across the waves. We'll unearth ancient Norse navigation stones, puzzling and weather-worn. And finally, we'll climb the oak staircases of polished mansions, where maritime wealth was measured in maps and oil. But we begin, where all lighthouse duty begins, with solitude. Imagine the soft moan of wind across a stone tower. The creak of thick wooden doors, the steady rhythm of ocean swell. And the simple, unyielding task of keeping the light alive. You awaken before the sun. The mattress beneath you is thin, and the wool blanket scratchy with dampness. Outside, there is only wind. It pushes against the thick stone walls of the tower as if it wants to come in and shake you awake. But you are already up. You always are. Your boots are cold. You slip them on anyway. There's no point delaying it. Today will be the same as yesterday. You will climb. You will polish. You will log. You will listen to the sea, and it will not answer. You're stationed on one of the remote outposts of the Scottish coast, perhaps Cape Wrath, the Mull of Galloway, or a cluster of jagged rocks miles from shore. Your only companions, two other keepers, both tired, both quiet. You've all learned not to talk too much. Words are precious here, used like oil. Conserved, measured, never spilled. Your first duty is to tend to the lamp. This is not a simple switch. You must climb the spiral staircase, worn smooth by generations of boots. It winds endlessly upward, through the chill of the stone tower's core. At the top, the air is slightly warmer, trapped heat from the lamp itself, now a faint smell of soot and brass. You clean the Fresnel lens, a marvel of glass geometry that can bend light across the ocean. But it smudges easily. You breathe slowly as you polish, careful not to leave even a single thumbprint. The lamp must be refueled with paraffin. You hold the container steady, spills mean fire, or worse, darkness. You check the wicks. They burn low and steady. Any flicker must be recorded in your log. Ah, the logbook. You descend, and sit at the wooden desk in the common room. A single candle lights the page. Ink scratches onto parchment. You note the weather, fog, wind, tide, because someone, someday, might read it. Or perhaps no one will. Breakfast is oatcakes. Always oatcakes. Perhaps with dried herring, or cold porridge from the night before. A pot of weak tea hisses beside the stove, but the kettle whistles only when the wind allows it. There are maintenance rounds next. Ropes to check. Windows to secure. The signal horn to test. On some days, you must row to a nearby island to collect parcels, oil drums, letters, sacks of potatoes. Often, there are no letters. Silence wraps around the hours. The waves do not change. You know every creak of the tower's beams, every mark on the stone, every knot in the grain of your bunk. The isolation is not sudden, it grows, softly, like moss on a northern wall. You speak less each day. When you do, your voice sounds strange. As if unused. At night, you ascend once more, to check the lamp. The sea is black, endless. Sometimes it sparkles with bioluminescent light. More often, it is simply cold. There is a comfort in routine, even if that comfort frays at the edges. Sometimes, you stare across the dark water and feel like the last person alive. There are stories, of course. Stories of lighthouse keepers losing their grip. Of arguments over logbooks that ended in silence. Of boots found on steps, but no one above. But here, now, it is simply you. And the sea. And the light that must never go out. You close the logbook. You check the time. You wait. Tomorrow, you will do this again. And again. And again. It is December, 1900. The wind off the North Atlantic is sharp, and the sky never quite clears. On the deck of the relief ship Hesperus, the crew pulls their coats tighter. They are approaching the Flannan Isles, 7 tiny, wind-carved rocks off the western coast of Scotland, rising from the sea like the tips of a forgotten mountain. This is Lighthouse territory. Remote, desolate, endlessly gray. A place where gulls scream and waves never stop striking the rock. A place few people visit, and none live on, except for the keepers of the light. 3 men were stationed here, Thomas Marshall, James Duckett, and Donald MacArthur. Experienced. Steady. Men chosen because they knew the loneliness that came with this life. They were due for relief. But something is wrong. From the ship, there is no sign of movement. No wave. No response to the horn. No supply crane raised. No flag. Just the lighthouse, still and silent, as if it has been abandoned. The captain grows uneasy. A boat is lowered. Men row across the frigid chop to the landing rock, calling out as they come. Still, no answer. The gate is shut but unlocked. The path to the lighthouse winds up the steep hill, slick with sea spray. It leads to the keeper's cottage and the tower. The door is closed. Inside, the table is set, plates with cold food, a chair knocked over. A clock has stopped. Beds are unmade. Jackets are still hanging on their hooks. The storm journal is filled out, day by day, until December 15th. After that, nothing. 1 oilskin coat is missing. The other 2 remain. No bodies. No sign of a struggle. Just the wind. What happened here? The Flannan Isles mystery has remained unsolved for more than a century. Some believe a storm swept them away. But the weather, according to the logs, had been clear. Others say 1 man fell, and the others rushed to help, swept off the landing rock by a rogue wave. Some whisper of madness, of an argument, of one man losing control. Others invoke folklore, ghost ships, sea spirits, and phantom hands. The Isles had always been treated with caution by local fishermen, sacred rocks where lights flickered even before the tower was built. And still others point to the facts. Ropes were found scattered. A box had broken from its moorings. The western landing, damaged. As if something powerful had struck, sudden, fast, and final. But there is no proof. No witnesses. Just the absence of 3 men whose only job was to keep the lamp burning. The investigation concluded simply, they were drowned. But this explanation, while possible, never felt complete. Their log entries, recovered from the final days, mention a terrible storm. But official records show calm weather. They mention a strange silence. A prayer for safety. And then, nothing. To this day, lighthouse keepers who serve along the Scottish coast sometimes pause at the name Flannan. Not out of fear, but out of respect. A reminder that nature, for all its silence, sometimes takes more than we understand. Tonight, as the waves whisper beneath your thoughts, remember those 3 men, not as victims, but as caretakers. Gentle stewards of the light, swallowed quietly by the sea. Their story has no ending. Only a beginning. And a question. Long before the Flannan Isles mystery, before lighthouse towers dotted the shores of Europe, there were other ways to find one's way through the sea. Imagine yourself aboard a Viking longship. There is no compass. No chart. No clock. The sky is overcast. Clouds have swallowed the sun, and the sea is uniform in every direction. Yet the crew rows steadily. You are the lookout. And it is your job to help find the way home. How did they do it? For centuries, the answer seemed to be instinct, or skill, or simply luck. But in recent decades, archaeologists and scientists have begun to rediscover a technique that may explain a mystery wrapped in legend, the sunstones. Old Norse sagas mention them. Crystals that could locate the position of the sun even when the sky was gray. Magical, perhaps. Or misunderstood. Today, we call them Iceland spar, a type of clear calcite crystal. It polarizes light. And, when held and rotated, it can reveal the direction of the sun, even when the sky is completely clouded. But how would a Viking have known that? Picture yourself holding such a stone, turning it gently between your fingers. As you rotate it, a subtle glow moves within, ghostly, but steady. Once aligned properly, a second image of the sky appears inside the crystal, split from the first. Where the images overlap, you can estimate the sun's position. It's a slow process. Meditative. Almost ceremonial. And it may have been the very thing that allowed the Norse to reach Greenland, Iceland, even Vinland, what we now know as coastal North America. No sun, no compass. But a crystal held to the eye, and the direction of light traced through clouds. In 2013, scientists tested this theory. They built a replica sunstone navigator and used it on ships, under real cloud cover. The results were surprisingly accurate, within a few degrees. Enough to guide a longship safely over the open sea. It's not proof. There are no surviving Viking manuals or navigators' journals. But the sagas remain. And so do the stones. Iceland's spar has been found in shipwrecks. A 16th-century English warship yielded one, packed alongside navigational tools. A clue left behind, quietly, beneath the waves. There's something beautifully simple about it, isn't there? A culture built on raiding and exploration may have relied not on maps or steel, but on clarity. On light. Bent through crystal. Revealed only to those who knew how to look. Like the lighthouse keepers, centuries later, they searched for the sun in the mist. And often, they found it, not with machines, but with patience, memory, and a quiet faith in the sea's rhythms. The sunstone is not loud. It offers no compass rose. But in your hand, it holds the shape of direction, drawn from light itself. And when the sky clears, at last, you may find yourself already where you needed to be. The lighthouse was built for survival. But elsewhere, far from the lonely cliffs, the sea built something else. Homes. Not the storm-lashed cottages of lighthouse keepers, but the calm, measured houses of those who commanded the waves, and returned. Imagine yourself in the entryway of a 19th-century sea captain's house. It sits on a rise above a sheltered Scottish bay. The air here still carries the scent of salt, but it is softened by lavender in the garden, and the creak of wooden floorboards beneath thick woolen rugs. These homes were not grand in the way of palaces. They were not loud in the way of cities. Their wealth was in detail. In stillness. In care. You take your coat off at the hall. It hangs beside others, dark wool, brass buttons, epaulets once worn beneath icy skies. The hallway is long, lined with portraits, generations of seafarers, with steady eyes and stern lips. To your left, a study. The shelves are filled with nautical charts, creased, yellowed, annotated in hand. A brass telescope leans in the corner. On the desk, a quill, an inkwell, and a journal half-written in tight cursive. The pen is still damp. You open it carefully. Entries detail the voyage to the Americas. The price of fish in Nova Scotia. A note about a broken mast, repaired near Lisbon. Below that, a pressed flower from a stranger's garden. The room is warm. The windows are small, but sunlight filters in through lace curtains. Dust motes drift lazily. A model ship rests inside a glass case, a miniature of the captain's own vessel, crafted in retirement, each sail folded with precision. Further down the hall, the drawing room. Here, the world slows. A clock ticks gently. A low fire murmurs behind a grate. There is tea on a silver tray, lukewarm now, but aromatic. On the mantel, carved whalebone, a shell from the Indies, a compass with no needle. The captain is not home today. But his world remains. There are books, tales of Homer, journals of Darwin, thick atlases with gilded edges. A globe spins silently in the corner, its oceans faded to pale green. The children's room, just beyond, is papered with faded stars and sailing ships. Their toys are carved from driftwood. In the attic, the sails are stored. Folded tightly, no longer in use, but still smelling faintly of rope and wind. This was a life supported by danger, but not defined by it. The captain may have faced pirates, storms, and illness, but here, in this house, all that remains is reflection. The quiet grace of having returned. And stayed. Some say the houses of sea captains are haunted. But not by fear. Rather, by memory. Each echo in the stairwell is a footstep returning home. Each creak in the floor is a reminder of waves long since calmed. As you settle into the chair by the fire, your hands warmed by the teacup, you begin to understand. The sea is not only a place of loss, or hardship. It is also the place from which peace can return. If only for a while. And now, our journey comes to rest. From the lonely lamp room of a lighthouse. To the mystery of 3 vanished men. To ancient crystals guiding long-lost ships. And finally, to a quiet room where sea maps sleep. History, even when full of silence, leaves echoes behind. And in those echoes, like the gentle hum of the sea in a shell, there is comfort. May the night wrap you gently, like wool in winter. May the waves you now drift upon be calm, steady, and slow. And may the light, however distant, never go out. Good night.